Welcome to Hotel Leaders, hosted by Peter Demore. With over 25 years in the hotel industry, as a manager, educator, entrepreneur, and now an independent voice, he brings a balanced and insightful perspective on the world's greatest hotels. It's time to check in.
Before there was a city called Beverly Hills, there was a hotel. A grand white mission-style building standing among bean fields. 6 miles from the nearest railway station, waiting for wealthy visitors to arrive and imagine the neighbourhood that might one day surround it. The hotel eventually turned pink, palm trees grew around it, Hollywood moved in. Deals were made over lunch, stars disappeared into private bungalows. An architect helped define its image, even though the racial rules of the era would not always have welcomed him as a guest. My connection here is that my father grew up next door in Hollywood, amongst stars who frequented the hotel, such as Marilyn Monroe, Debbie Reynolds, and he even went to the same school as John Williams, who composed the music for Jaws, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, E.T., Harry Potter, and so many more. My father also attended UCLA, the university adjacent to Beverly Hills. Howard Hughes once ordered roast beef sandwiches to be left beneath a tree at the hotel. Leonard Bernstein reportedly conceived West Side Story beside the pool. And when the Eagles needed an image to represent the beautiful, seductive, and unsettling mythology of California, they placed this hotel on the album cover. This is not simply a famous hotel in Beverly Hills. This is the hotel Beverly Hills grew around. The Beverly Hills Hotel is one of the most recognizable hotels in the world. The pale pink facade, the green and white stripes, the looping handwritten logo, the red carpet at the entrance, the Martinique banana leaf wallpaper, the swimming pool framed by palm trees, and hidden behind all of that, a collection of private bungalows that became part residence, part refuge, and part witness to Hollywood history. The hotel sits within approximately 12 acres of tropical gardens on Sunset Boulevard. Its current accommodation inventory is roughly 210 rooms and suites, including 23 bungalows concealed along winding garden paths. But the numbers do not explain the hotel. This is not a conventional city property where the lobby, rooms, restaurant, and meeting facilities are stacked efficiently within a tower. The Beverly Hills Hotel is organised more like a private world. The main building provides the public face, the entrance, lobby, restaurants, and conventional rooms. The gardens create separation. The pool becomes a social club. The bungalows provide another level of seclusion for people who want the services of a great hotel without feeling that they are living in one. That combination is at the heart of the product. The Beverly Hills Hotel allows guests to be seen and to disappear. They can sit in the Polo Lounge, where visibility has historically carried professional value, and then retreat into a bungalow where staff protect their privacy. They can arrive along the red carpet as if attending a premiere, and then spend the afternoon beside a pool that feels hidden from the city. They can participate in Hollywood while remaining slightly removed from it. And that tension between exposure and escape is not accidental. It is the reason the hotel became so useful to the entertainment industry. Actors needed somewhere they could live between marriages, films, or houses. Studio executives needed somewhere to meet without returning to the office. Writers needed tables where conversations might become projects. Producers needed private rooms for negotiations. People who were famous needed staff who could recognize them without reacting to them. And people who were not yet famous needed somewhere they might be noticed by those who were. The Beverly Hills Hotel became a workplace, clubhouse, residence, refuge, and stage. Its nickname is the Pink Palace, but it operates less like a palace and more like Hollywood's private village. The hotel stands at 9641 Sunset Boulevard, just north of the commercial heart of Beverly Hills and a short distance from Rodeo Drive. Today, that address immediately suggests wealth, celebrity, shopping, mansions, agents, studios, and the mythology of Los Angeles. But when the hotel opened in 1912, there was no incorporated city of Beverly Hills. There were open fields, new subdivisions, and a group of developers trying to persuade affluent families that this undeveloped land between Los Angeles and the sea could become somewhere desirable. This gives the hotel a location story unlike almost any other. Most famous hotels benefit from an established destination. The Beverly Hills Hotel helped create its destination. It provided prospective property buyers with somewhere comfortable to stay while inspecting land. More importantly, it gave the undeveloped neighbourhood a social centre before the neighbourhood fully existed. A hotel can do that. It can give a new district legitimacy. It provides dining, events, accommodation, employment, transport, and a visible centre of activity. It gives people a reason to visit before they have another reason to be there. The hotel's gardens remain central to the location strategy. Los Angeles is sprawling, car-dependent, and frequently exposed. The Beverly Hills Hotel responds by creating enclosure. Once a vehicle turns off Sunset Boulevard and approaches the entrance, the city begins to recede. Palm trees, banana leaves, flowers, and mature planting soften the view. The gardens divide the property into smaller worlds and screen many of the bungalows from one another. Privacy here is not achieved only through security. It's achieved through landscaping. That is the useful operational distinction. A security guard can prevent someone from entering a space. A garden can prevent the space from feeling watched in the first place. The hotel sits in a strategically valuable position between several versions of Los Angeles. Rodeo Drive and Central Beverly Hills are nearby. Century City's business district is close. West Hollywood and the Sunset Strip lie to the east. Bel Air is to the west. The film studios and entertainment offices of Greater Los Angeles are all within reach. The hotel therefore works for leisure guests, entertainment figures, executives, long-stay residents, and local diners. And yet, it doesn't feel like an airport hotel, a downtown business hotel, nor a resort stranded outside the city. It feels like a resort hidden inside the city. That is the power of the original 90210. The founding figure of Beverly Hills Hotel was Margaret Jane Anderson. Her importance deserves more attention than it often receives. Anderson was a divorced woman supporting 2 children in an era when women had limited access to finance, property ownership, and senior business positions. She entered the accommodation industry through boarding houses and later became closely associated with the Hollywood Hotel, which she operated with her son Stanley. She'd learned how to run a hotel in a rapidly changing city. At the beginning of the 20th century, Los Angeles was attracting wealthy Easterners, industrialists, entertainers, developers, and people seeking sunshine, health, or invention. But the city's hospitality industry was still developing. To the west of central Los Angeles, oil investor and property developer Burton Green was attempting to sell land controlled by the Rodeo Land and Water Company. The area had potential, but potential is difficult to sell when prospective buyers arrive to find fields and few amenities. Green needed a centerpiece. He approached Margaret Anderson. The resulting hotel was designed by architect Elmer Gray in a Mission Revival style and opened on the 12th of May, 1912. Anderson's philosophy was captured in her famous operating motto: "Guests are entitled to the best of everything, regardless of cost." That statement sounds extravagant, but it also reveals a clear market strategy. The hotel was not trying to compete on convenience or economy. Its role was to demonstrate confidence in the future of surrounding development. It had to feel established before the neighbourhood was established. If the hotel appeared uncertain, buyers might feel uncertain about the land. If the hotel offered comfort, society, and service, the surrounding area began to feel like a destination. 2 years later, Beverly Hills was incorporated as a city. The sequence matters. The hotel did not borrow the prestige of Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills borrowed the prestige from the hotel. The first bungalows were added in 1915 to accommodate families and longer staying guests who wanted more room and privacy. This decision created a product format that would ultimately become more famous than many of the conventional guest rooms. The bungalows were well suited to the emerging film industry. Actors and producers often worked on irregular schedules. Their personal lives attracted public interest. They might need accommodation for weeks or months rather than nights. A private bungalow with hotel service was more flexible than a house and more discreet than a corridor room. The hotel's early clients included figures from silent cinema and the developing studio system, as stars built homes nearby. Beverly Hills became increasingly associated with entertainment wealth. But the hotel's survival was not automatic. It changed ownership, struggled during the Great Depression, and closed for several years before reopening in 1932. Its legend was built through periods of instability, not uninterrupted success. The most important physical transformation came during the 1940s. Under owner Hernando Cartwright, architect Paul Revere Williams was brought in to reshape major parts of the hotel. Williams was already becoming known as an architect to Hollywood's elite. He designed homes for stars and buildings that helped define Southern California's interpretation of elegance. At the Beverly Hills Hotel, his work included the grand entrance, the crescent wing, changes to the lobby, the polo lounge, the fountain coffee room, and the poolside cabanas. He also designed the hotel's distinctive handwritten logo. Williams was black, and he built his career during an era of formal and informal racial segregation. He designed luxurious spaces for clients who admired his talent, while navigating rules that could restrict where he himself could live, dine, or be served. That contradiction should not be edited out of the hotel's story. One of the people most responsible for creating the visual identity of Hollywood's glamour worked within a society that did not offer him equal access to it. The hotel was painted its famous pink in 1948. The following year, designer Don Loper selected the Martinique banana leaf wallpaper created by C.W. Stockwell. The wallpaper now runs for miles through the property and has become so closely associated with the hotel that copies and variations appear in restaurants, homes, fashion shoots from around the world. The Pink Palace identity was therefore not the work of one opening moment in 1912. It was constructed in layers. Margaret Anderson created the hotel. Elmer Gray gave it its original architectural form. The developing film industry gave it its clientele. Hernando Cartwright repositioned its social spaces. Paul R. Williams created much of its enduring structure and visual language. Don Loper added the pattern that became its interior signature. And generations of employees converted those physical elements into a culture. This is often how icons are really made. Not through one perfect original concept, but through a series of good decisions that accumulate until the property becomes difficult to imagine any other way. The current general manager is John Scanlon. Scanlon joined Dorchester Collection in 2005 and held senior roles in London before moving to Beverly Hills in 2022. His previous experience included leading 45 Park Lane, working at the Dorchester, and serving in a global revenue role. That combination is valuable. A general manager at the Beverly Hills Hotel needs to understand both the emotional and commercial sides of luxury. The emotional side involves history, regular guests, long-serving employees, privacy, nostalgia, and the feeling that the hotel belongs partly to the city. The commercial side involves room rates, labour, food costs, renovations, digital distribution, events, asset investment, and the pressure to keep an old hotel competitive against newer properties. The hotel's official starting rates are more than $1,000 a night, and at those prices, guests are not simply purchasing a bed. They're purchasing entry to a cultural institution, access to the pool and gardens, recognition, discretion, and the possibility of participating in a version of Los Angeles they have seen in films and photographs. But heritage can become a trap. Guests want the hotel to remain familiar. They also want modern bathrooms, reliable technology, current wellness, contemporary food, and spaces that don't feel preserved in amber. The general manager, therefore, has to change the property without allowing guests to feel that it has changed too much. That challenge is especially visible in 2026. The hotel has announced 5 new public spaces planned for the Northern Hemisphere fall: a supper club and dining destination, a cocktail bar and terrace, an indoor-outdoor lounge, a screening room, and a private dining room. Designer Ken Falk is leading the creative direction. The established Polo Lounge, Fountain Coffee Room, and Cabana Cafe are intended to remain unchanged. This is a significant strategy decision. Rather than removing the venues guests already love, the hotel is adding new reasons to visit. It is not replacing heritage with novelty, it is placing novelty beside heritage. The project is described as the biggest expansion of the hotel's social offering since the 1940s. That means John Scallion's leadership period may become one of the most consequential chapters since Paul R. Williams reshaped the property. There is also a more difficult part of the leadership story. The hotel is operated by Dorchester Collection, which is owned by the Brunei Investment Agency. The owner became the subject of major protests and boycotts, particularly in 2014 and again in 2019, following international criticism of Brunei's criminal laws and their treatment of homosexuality and adultery. Celebrities, organisations, and event organisers stopped using the property. Functions were cancelled, protesters gathered outside. The controversy affected the hotel's reputation and the people working within it. A serious account of the Beverly Hills Hotel cannot ignore this. It also reveals a complicated reality of hotel leadership. The local employees did not create the laws being protested. Many had devoted decades to the property and depended upon it for their livelihoods. Yet the hotel was an internationally visible asset connected to the ownership being challenged, making it an obvious focus for protest. This placed management and employees between ownership decisions made thousands of kilometres away and the values of the community in which they worked. The lesson is not that reputation can be separated neatly from ownership. It cannot. The lesson is that hotel leaders may be required to manage consequences they did not create and cannot personally resolve. They still have to support employees. They still have to communicate with guests. They still have to maintain standards. And they still have to understand that a hotel is never only a building. It can become a symbol, including for issues far beyond hospitality. The Beverly Hills Hotel's modern leadership challenge is therefore larger than maintaining pink paint and perfect service. It is protecting trust around an asset that carries enormous cultural visibility. The arrival is deliberately cinematic. Guests approach beneath palm trees and stop at the entrance framed by the hotel's pink facade, green planting, and striped details. Then comes the red carpet. At many hotels, a red carpet appears only for weddings, galas, or special guests. At the Beverly Hills Hotel, it's part of the everyday arrival. That sends a clear message. You do not need to be attending a premiere. Arriving here is the premiere. The design language is unusually powerful because it is both luxurious and playful. Many historic luxury hotels depend upon marble, chandeliers, dark wood, and formality. The Beverly Hills Hotel uses pink, green, stripes, curved shapes, tropical leaves, and bright Californian light. It feels expensive without feeling solemn. That matters in Los Angeles. The city's version of luxury is different from London or Paris. It is more closely connected to sunshine, health, outdoor living, youth, cars, gardens, and the possibility of becoming someone new. The banana leaf wallpaper creates instant recognition, but the hotel cannot rely on wallpaper alone. The arrival operation involves valet staff, doorman, reception, bell services, security, concierge, and guest relations, all working together. Some arrivals will be obvious. A family on holiday, a couple celebrating, a business traveller. Others may require careful handling. A celebrity arriving away from photographers. A long-stay guest returning to a bungalow. An assistant checking arrangements before an employer arrives. A studio executive meeting someone who should not be seen waiting in the lobby. A guest who wants recognition, another who wants anonymity. Luxury service here requires controlled recognition. The staff need to know who people are without making them feel observed. They need to remember preferences without revealing information in front of others. They need to manage vehicles, luggage, and visitors without turning the entrance into a spectacle. And they need to create warmth for first-time guests who may feel intimidated by the hotel's reputation. The last point is important. A famous hotel can accidentally make ordinary guests feel like they are interrupting a private club. The red carpet should communicate the opposite. It should say that while famous people have walked here today, it belongs to you. The accommodation strategy operates two different products. The main building contains guest rooms and suites that deliver a more traditional luxury hotel experience. They're bright, spacious, and designed with cream, taupe, walnut, leather, mohair, and touches of the hotel's signature pink and green. Some include patios or views across Beverly Hills. But the bungalows are the hotel's defining accommodation. There are 23 of them, hidden throughout the gardens. The first bungalows were created in 1915, and their enduring appeal is easy to understand. They provide a private entrance and greater separation from the hotel's public areas. Depending upon the category, they may include living rooms, dining spaces, fireplaces, patios, kitchens, pools, and jacuzzis. The product ladder is not simply room, suite, and bigger suite. It is visibility, space, privacy, and independence. A guest in the main building is staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel. A guest in a bungalow can feel as though they live in Beverly Hills, with an entire hotel operating quietly behind their garden wall. 5 of the bungalows have been designed around famous former guests. Bungalow 1 is inspired by Marilyn Monroe, who was a regular guest and found privacy within the property. Bungalow 3 pays tribute to Howard Hughes, using darker colours, exotic woods, and aviation references. Bungalow 5 is associated with Elizabeth Taylor and includes a private pool and jacuzzi. Other legendary bungalows draw upon Frank Sinatra and Charlie Chaplin. There is an obvious commercial advantage to this. The history gives each bungalow a narrative beyond its dimensions. Guests are not only comparing square meters, bathrooms, and bedrooms, they're choosing a story. But there's also a danger. Celebrity theming can become superficial very quickly. A few framed photographs and a famous name do not automatically create a meaningful room. The better approach is to use the former guest as a design influence rather than turning the accommodation into a museum. The Howard Hughes bungalow, for example, does not try to recreate a specific year in his life. It uses aviation objects, geometric details, deeper colours, and a more private mood to reflect aspects of his character. The Paul R. Williams suite takes a different approach. It honours the architect whose work shaped the hotel and includes a large patio, curved bar, grand piano, fireplace, and 1950s atmosphere. That suite makes an important statement. The hotel's history is not only the history of the people who slept there. It is also a history of the people who built it. At the top of the accommodation ladder are the large presidential suites and bungalows that operate more like private residences. These spaces can support extended stays, entertaining security teams, family groups, and staff. In practical terms, the high-profile bungalow service is complex. In-room dining may have to travel through gardens without disrupting other guests. Housekeeping must service spaces discreetly and unpredictable schedules. Engineering issues must be resolved without creating visible activity. Deliveries and visitors may need to be screened. Guest preferences can extend far beyond pillow types and minibar contents, and staff must distinguish between good anticipation and intrusion. The goal is not to maximize contact. The goal is maximum confidence with minimum unnecessary contact. That is what the bungalow guest is really paying for, not just privacy, the assurance that privacy will be professionally maintained. The Polo Lounge is the hotel's social engine. Opened under that name in 1941, it became known as Hollywood's commissary because so many studio executives, actors, agents, producers, lawyers, and writers used it as a workplace disguised as a restaurant. This is an unusual form of food and beverage value. The customer is not paying only for the meal. They're paying for proximity, visibility, access, and the possibility that a conversation will lead somewhere. For decades, being seen at the right table could indicate that someone remained relevant. Being invited to lunch could signal a professional relationship. Two people appearing together might begin a rumour before the first course arrived. The restaurant reportedly installed telephones in booths so guests could continue receiving industry calls. Even the seating carries history. Some tables and booths are still informally associated with regulars such as Marilyn Monroe, Charlie Chaplin, Sophia Loren, and Elizabeth Taylor. That puts enormous responsibility on the front of house team. Seating is never only seating in a power restaurant. A table may communicate status. A visible patio position can be valuable to one guest and unacceptable to another. One person wants the center of the room. Another wants the booth least exposed to the entrance. A maitre d' has to understand relationships, rivalries, habits, and mood without making any of those calculations visible. Pepe de Anda, the Polo Lounge's long-serving director, reached 40 years at the restaurant in 2026. That type of tenure is a strategic asset. A reservation system knows what time someone booked. A long-serving maitre d' may know where they prefer to sit, who they usually dine with, when they want a conversation, when they do not, and which details must never be repeated. The Polo Lounge also has one of the strongest signature dishes in American hotel dining, the McCarthy salad. It was created for Hollywood lawyer and polo player Neil McCarthy, who requested a particular combination of chicken, lettuces, beetroot, egg, cheese, bacon, tomato, and avocado. The hotel now sells hundreds of McCarthy salads each week. That is the operational value of a true signature dish. It is recognizable. It is difficult to remove from the menu. Regulars return expecting it to remain consistent. New guests order it because they want to participate in this story. And it travels beyond the hotel through recipes, media, and appearances at other Dorchester Collection properties. Culinary director Ashley James oversees the hotel restaurants, banqueting, and in-room dining. His challenge is not to replace the classics, but to protect them while allowing the rest of the menu to move forward. A hotel kitchen cannot survive by serving only nostalgia, but it can damage the brand by improving dishes that guests do not want changed. The McCarthy salad is therefore more than lunch. It is a test of culinary restraint. The Fountain Coffee Room offers a completely different experience. It has operated since 1949 and contains only 19 counter seats. It serves burgers, pancakes, sandwiches, pies, milkshakes, ice cream, and other diner-style dishes. Its small size is part of its power. The room creates proximity. A celebrity, hotel guest, and local resident can all sit in adjacent stools without the layers of formality found in the Polo Lounge. It also prevents the Beverly Hills Hotel from becoming too grand. A truly confident luxury hotel can serve a formal power lunch and milkshake. The Cabana Cafe completes the current dining trio. It serves casual meals beside the pool, breakfasts, salads, sandwiches, pizzas, burgers, juices, and smoothies. The menu fits the setting. Guests are wearing swimwear, moving between lounges and cabanas, and may want to eat without leaving the social atmosphere of the pool. These three venues create a clear progression. The Polo Lounge is where Los Angeles conducts business and performs status. The Fountain Coffee Room is where the hotel becomes intimate and nostalgic. The Cabana Cafe is where the hotel relaxes. Then, in the Northern Hemisphere fall of 2026, the hotel plans to add 5 new social spaces. That expansion responds to a real strategic issue. The Polo Lounge is legendary, but one restaurant cannot carry the hotel's entire nightlife and social identity forever. New generations need places that feel like their own, rather than places where they're only visiting someone else's history. The leadership challenge will be to create new institutions rather than temporary concepts. The hotel does not need 5 fashionable rooms. It needs spaces capable of becoming stories. The swimming pool opened in 1938 as the Sand and Pool Club. It originally included sand to create the feeling of a beach club, despite the hotel being inland. That idea says a great deal about Los Angeles hospitality. The objective was not geographic authenticity, it was a lifestyle construction. If guests wanted a beach club atmosphere, the hotel could manufacture one beneath the palm trees. Today, the pool is one of the most photographed parts of the hotel property. Pink lounges, striped cabanas, palms, and blue water create an image that feels instantly Californian. But the pool is not just visually important. It is a highly complicated service environment. Guests may remain for hours. Their needs change throughout the day. They require towels, sunscreen, food, drinks, shade, changing, privacy, and sometimes assistance managing children or visitors. The hotel offers equipped private cabanas with televisions, safes, refrigerators, charging facilities, and lounge furniture. During warmer periods, staff distribute small refreshments such as smoothies, snacks, and iced treats. These details are not individually extraordinary. Their value comes from timing. A refreshment offered just as the heat becomes uncomfortable feels thoughtful. The same item delivered after a guest has already asked twice feels like inventory. That is the difference between amenity and service. The pool also has its own cultural history. Katharine Hepburn is said to have dived into it fully clothed. The Beatles held a private party there. Gregory Peck and Lauren Bacall were photographed poolside during the filming of Designing Women. And Leonard Bernstein reportedly developed the idea for West Side Story while spending time in Cabana 3. The hotel's spa is more intimate than the vast wellness facilities of a modern resort. It includes treatment rooms, a duet suite, and a nail area with natural light from a citrus garden. There is also a fitness centre, complimentary bicycle use, year-round access to the outdoor pool, and a house car service with a limited radius. These facilities reveal the hotel's approach. It is not trying to become a medical wellness retreat. Its role is to support life in Los Angeles. A guest can train, swim, receive a treatment, travel to Rodeo Drive, hold a meeting, return for lunch, and spend the afternoon in a cabana. The 12 acres of gardens are arguably the hotel's most valuable facility. More than 180 varieties of plants, palms, shrubs, roses, vines, and ferns create the physical separation that makes the property feel larger and more private than its urban location suggests. The gardening team therefore contributes directly to room revenue. Without the vegetation, the bungalows would feel closer together. The pool would feel more exposed. The paths would feel more like service routes. The property would lose the sense of discovery that allows guests to forget Sunset Boulevard is nearby. In this hotel, landscaping is not decoration, it is operating infrastructure. The employees are the people who convert the hotel's mythology into a stay. That sounds obvious, but it is particularly important here because the guest arrives carrying so many expectations. They have seen the facade. They know the celebrity stories. They may have listened to Hotel California for decades. They may have saved for years to stay one night. Or they may have been visiting every week since childhood. Each of those guests requires something different. The first-time guest may want history explained and photographs taken. The regular guest may want none of that. They want the hotel to behave as though their return is completely natural. A celebrity may appreciate recognition from a trusted employee, but dislike any sign that other people have been alerted. An assistant may make requests on behalf of someone whose name should not be spoken openly. A bungalow guest may be present for weeks and need the hotel to develop a household rhythm around them. That is why discretion cannot mean simply remaining silent. Discretion is active information management. Who needs to know? What do they need to know? When should it be communicated? Where should it never be written or repeated? How do you coordinate housekeeping, security, food and beverage, engineering and transport without turning the guest into a topic? The hotel's long-serving employees are central to this. The official website highlights team members with 25 years or more of service. In the kitchen, cooks reproduce hundreds of McCarthy salads each week. In-room dining employees build relationships with guests they rarely meet face-to-face. Laundry staff maintain linen standards that guests notice mainly when something is wrong. These are not supporting roles around the celebrity story. They are the reason the celebrity story exists. Howard Hughes could not live privately in the bungalows for years without people who understood unusual requests and did not discuss them outside the property. Elizabeth Taylor could not return through multiple stages of her life without staff able to balance familiarity and professionalism. A power lunch does not work if the host stand mishandles the arrival, the kitchen misses the timing, or a server interrupts the most important part of a conversation. The hotel must avoid becoming a workplace where employees are expected to tolerate anything because a guest is powerful. That is a genuine leadership risk in a celebrity hotel. Discretion should protect privacy. It should not remove standards of behaviour or employee dignity. The strongest luxury cultures create boundaries and consistency. They support the guest without teaching the guest that every demand is acceptable. Working here also requires adaptability. The hotel is formal enough to charge more than $1,000 per night, but casual enough to serve burgers beside the pool. Employees may interact with royalty, filmmakers, children, long-stay residents, local brunch guests, and tourists within a single shift. The style cannot become stiff. The service has to feel polished, but Californian. Confident, relaxed, personal, and alert. The real performance is making that complexity look easy. The Beverly Hills Hotel has hosted so many famous guests that simply listing them becomes meaningless. The more interesting stories reveal how the property was used. Howard Hughes lived in the bungalows intermittently for around 30 years. He valued the property because it allowed him to remain close to Hollywood while withdrawing from public view. One of the hotel's famous stories is that Hughes asked staff to leave roast beef sandwiches beneath a tree outside his bungalow at night. The detail is strange, but operationally revealing. The service team did not need the request to make sense. They needed it to be delivered correctly and privately. Marilyn Monroe stayed in several bungalows, with Bungalow 1 becoming particularly associated with her. For Monroe, the hotel offered both proximity and protection. She could be within the centre of entertainment world while living behind foliage and private entrance. Elizabeth Taylor's connection is particularly strong. Bungalow 5 became one of her preferred spaces, and the hotel's law links the property with several of her honeymoons. The bungalow now has its own pool and jacuzzi and is designed as a private home rather than a conventional suite. Taylor's history demonstrates the value of continuity. She did not interact with the hotel during only one famous period. The property remained part of her life through changing marriages, films, and public identities. Frank Sinatra, Charlie Chaplin, Clark Gable, Sophia Loren, John Lennon, and Yoko Ono are among the many figures connected with the hotel and its bungalows. But perhaps the most visible cultural association came from a band that was not singing about the property at all. In 1976, the Eagles released the album Hotel California. The cover photograph showed the Beverly Hills Hotel at dusk, viewed through palm trees. Photographer David Alexander reportedly captured the image from an elevated platform above Sunset Boulevard. The hotel name was not displayed prominently, but the architecture and atmosphere were recognizable. The cover transformed the building into a symbol of California itself. Beautiful, exclusive, inviting, and slightly unreal. That symbolism suited the album. The song was not a hotel advertisement. It explored excess, disillusionment, and the darker side of the California dream. Yet the image strengthened the hotel's mythology. It made the Pink Palace part of a global popular culture, even for millions of people who could not identify it by name. The Polo Lounge generated a different kind of culture. It was less about public performance and more about industry movement. Deals were discussed there because participants could eat, watch the room, and be watched by it. Careers could be advanced by the right introduction. A meeting that appeared casual could carry enormous financial weight. The room, therefore, functioned as an informal infrastructure for Hollywood. And then there is the pool. Katharine Hepburn entering the water in her tennis clothes. The Beatles holding a private party. Leonard Bernstein working through his idea that would become West Side Story. These stories are difficult to separate completely from legend, but that is part of the hotel's power. After more than a century, the building does not merely contain verified events. It contains accumulated memory. Some stories are recorded, some are repeated by staff, some are embellished, some remain private because the hotel did its job properly. That final category may be the most important. The Beverly Hills Hotel is famous partly because so much happened there. It remained trusted because much of what happened there never became public. In 2025, the Beverly Hills Hotel again received 3 Michelin keys, the highest level in Michelin's hotel distinction system. It and sister property Hotel Bel Air were the only Los Angeles hotels to receive the top award that year. The Michelin keys assess more than physical luxury. The criteria include architecture, design, service consistency, character, value, and the hotel's contribution to its setting. That is particularly relevant here. The Beverly Hills Hotel is not significant because it could be placed successfully in any other city. It is significant because it helped create the identity of this city. The property has also been recognized as a historic landmark by Beverly Hills. But awards are not the most interesting measure of whether the hotel is succeeding. The real test is whether it performs its original function. Does it remain a place where locals want to meet? Do regular guests feel recognized? Do new guests feel included rather than tolerated? Can it protect privacy in a world of smartphones and instant publication? Can the food and beverage outlets remain relevant rather than simply historic? Can the hotel introduce new spaces without weakening the Polo Lounge? Can it honour Paul R. Williams while telling the more complicated truth about the era in which he worked? Can it manage the reputation, consequences of its ownership honestly? Can it remain playful while charging some of the highest rates in Los Angeles? And can it continue attracting employees capable of sustaining the culture? The 2026 expansion will be an important test. A supper club, a cocktail bar, terrace, lounge, screening room, and private dining venue could give the hotel a new social centre. But new rooms alone will not create relevance. The right people need to want to use them. The programming needs to feel distinctive. The service needs to understand the social dynamics. And the concepts need enough confidence to become part of the hotel rather than short-lived additions within it. The hotel's strongest historical transformations worked because they created enduring operating assets. The bungalows solved privacy. The pool created a leisure club. The polo lounge created an industry dining room. The fountain coffee room created intimacy. The banana leaf wallpaper created visual identity. The next chapter should be judged by the same standard. Not whether it photographs well on an opening night, whether people are still telling stories about it decades later. The Beverly Hills Hotel began as an act of confidence. Margaret Anderson built a luxury hotel in a landscape that had not yet become Beverly Hills. The property offered visitors a glimpse of life the developers hoped the surrounding land could support. Then, the city grew. Hollywood expanded, stars arrived, the bungalows became refuges, the polo lounge became an office, the pool became a club. Paul R. Williams helped reshape the building into an image recognizable around the world. The hotel turned pink. The wallpaper became iconic. And over more than a century, thousands of employees protected the illusion that life here was effortless. Here is the hotel leader's verdict. The Beverly Hills Hotel does not simply sell old Hollywood glamour. It sells controlled access to the California dream. You can be visible without being exposed, private without being isolated, surrounded by history without staying in a museum. The leadership lesson is this: great hotels do not merely reflect successful destinations. Sometimes they create the confidence from which the destination grows. Before Beverly Hills became a symbol, Margaret Anderson built its front door. And, more than a century later, the red carpet is still waiting. Along with the official hotel footage, I would like to say a big thank you to the following with background footage courtesy of Global Travel Collection, Walk With Me Tim, Travel Diaries, Our Stories, World's Greatest Hotels, and of course, the official hotel YouTube channel. If you'd like to book a room at the hotel, please visit the official hotel website at dorchestercollection.com. All the links are in the description.
Thank you for joining today's episode. If you enjoyed it, the best way to show your appreciation is to follow the podcast so that you never miss our monthly episodes. Farewell, until the next time that you check in to Hotel Leaders.